Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here, again with another installment of my complete analysis of all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations. Today we have a bit of an interesting chorale in terms of the logistics. We have Weil der Munter meine Gemüter, mein Gemüter. Sorry for butchering the title there. German is not my native language. I like to think that my pronunciation's been getting better, but it's not something that I've been actively practicing other than the titles of the chorales for the last almost 200 videos that I've done. It's crazy, almost 200 videos. It's wild that many have been made so far. So so this is actually the tune and not the name of the text. Typically the title of the chorale follows the first line of the text, but there's no text associated with this chorale, or at least no text has survived. So to give it a title, we're just using the name of the melody that was used for this chorale, which translates to "Be alert, my soul." But now that the logistics are out of the way, fairly straightforward chorale, not too many interesting tidbits to talk about. Actually, there's a bit of an interesting progression at the beginning of the chorale, but we'll talk about it. One flat in the key signature, F major, F major. I reckon we're in the key of F major. Immediately afterwards we get D, D, F, and B flat. That is B flat major in first inversion, which is our subdominant, 4/6. We then have A, C, G, and C with a passing tone in the tenor. This is like an incomplete A major 7, which would be like 3/7. 4 going to 3 is definitely not a normative progression. We see 3 go to 4 very often, but not 4 going to 3. But this might be a way to kind of point us back in the direction of the cycle of falling fifths here, because 3 is going to 6, D, A, F, and C, which is D minor 7, root position, passing tone in the alto before we get G, B flat, D, and B flat. We might be tempted to call this a 2 chord. After all, 6 wants to go to 2, but we have one of these switch up progressions here where instead of 2, I think this is actually a 7/6 chord, because on the other side of the progression is a tonic triad, and I think 7/6 suits the tonic on the other side of it better than a 2 chord going to the tonic. But I think both analyses are correct. It just depends on what you hear as a chord tone and what you hear as a passing tone or a non-chord tone. So I hear this actually as E diminished in first inversion, which would be 7/6. 6 goes to 7 quite often as well. And then we get A, C, F, and A, which is our tonic triad, F major in root position, passing tone in the bass before we get C, C, E, and G, our 5 chord, our dominant, and we get it reiterated. He just voices the same chord twice, or same voicing twice, 2 consecutive beats. This is not a perfect authentic cadence. Apologies, this is a half cadence. And at the end of the first section, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of F. So C major takes us to F major, F, C, F, and A, which is our tonic triad. We have E, D, F, and B flat. I reckon this E is an accented non-chord tone, and this is another B flat major triad in first inversion, similar to how we started. We then have E, C, G, and C with a passing 7th in the melody. This is C major over E, which is 5/6, and that takes us to F major, F, C, F, and A, which is our tonic triad. We then have B flat, D, F, and G, which is G minor 7 first inversion, 2/6/5. Bach loves those. This A is a non-chord tone. This B flat is a chord tone before we get C, C, E, and G with a passing 7th in the tenor. This is C major, which is our dominant, and that takes us to F major, F, A, C, and F, which is our tonic triad. Okay, looking ahead, we have an interesting elision here. We have a perfect authentic cadence at the end of this phrase in the key of G minor, but we have a C major chord here, C, C, E, and G. I don't have any reason to believe that we're moving to the key of anything other than, well, actually I don't have any reason to believe that we're moving to another key at all, because right after an F major chord we're hearing C major. But turns out we actually are going to the key of G major, and this E is just this raised 6th scale degree of G minor, and this is just a major 4 chord, which is often how we see Bach voice his 4 chords in minor keys, because it's just a harmonization of melodic minor. We then get B flat, C, F sharp, and A. This B flat's an accented non-chord tone. We've seen accented non-chord tones on the second beat of the phrase once before. We actually have A, F sharp, and A, C, F sharp, and A, which is F sharp diminished in first inversion. That's 7, 6. 4 wants to go to 7, so that's a good sign. And we get G minor on the other side of the progression, G, D, G, and B flat, which is our tonic triad. And then we skip up to B here. We get an interesting arpeggiation here, G, B flat, and E flat, spelling out the triad that we're going to get on the next beat. So I'll call this B flat here, like taking the tonic triad and putting it in first inversion before we get E flat, B flat, G, and B flat, which would be like an E flat major chord, which is our 6. It's very interesting. We have like not quite cross relations, but in the same measure and somewhat close proximity. We have E natural and E flat. We typically see one go to 6 via a descending pattern, like we usually see the tonic go down a third. But here we have the tonic going up a 6th. That's kind of interesting. Passing 7th in the bass before we get C, E flat, G, and A. That's A minor 7 flat 5 over C, or 2 6 5. We know that Bach loves 2 6 5 chords. This A is kind of like taking the chord and putting it in root position, but we are getting rid of the third, so I'm not going to bother marking it. We could just talk about it. We have D, D, F sharp, and A, which is D major. It's our tonic. Sorry, not our tonic. Fake news, that is our dominant, D, D, F sharp, and A. This G is an anticipation, this C is a passing 7th, and then we cadence on G minor, G, B flat, D, and G. Looking ahead, we have perfect authentic cadence very similar to this phrase right here, but in the key of B flat major, moving us back in the direction of F towards the end of the chorale. So we start off the phrase with G minor, G, B flat, D, and B flat, which is our tonic triad. And typically I don't reanalyze chords that we see redundantly, just like this 5 chord. I wouldn't write 5 twice, just a stylistic thing. There's nothing wrong with doing that if you do. It's just, I feel like it's redundant information. But when we have a new line, I think it's better to start the new line even if we have the same chord twice musically. I think this 1 chord is also our gateway to B flat. It's also our 6th chord in the key of B flat. And then we get F, A, E flat, and C, which would be F7. That is our dominant. Passing 7th in the bass. Almost caught me there. That E flat is a chord tone, but this G is not. And then we have D, F, F, and D, which would be kind of like a deceptive progression. You could infer that this is like a rootless tonic triad in first inversion, but no, that's not what's happening. It's a 3 chord with a passing tone in the bass and a neighbor tone in the alto. Sorry, I forgot the name of the lower of the upper voices. And then we have B flat, F, and D. 3 going to 1. I really do look at this more like just a big tonic emphasis for 2 beats, but technically this is a 3 chord. We have no root there. Even though I think there is a strong argument to be made that it is a rootless tonic triad in first inversion, but that's more just a gestural thing rather than what you could literally infer from being on the page. So regardless, 3 and 1/6, they're basically the same chord for all intents and purposes. 1 takes us, this D is a chord tone as well, so we don't need to mark it. We then have E flat, B flat, G, and C. That's C minor 7 over E flat. We know that Bach loves 2 6 5 chords. This D is a non-chord tone. This E flat is a chord tone. We have F, A, F, and C with a passing 7th in the alto. That is F major, which is our 5 chord. And then we cadence on B flat major, B flat, F, D, and B flat, which is our tonic triad, B flat major. And as we're moving to the key of F again, we have a half cadence in the key of F here. Sorry, that looks like an MC. This is an HC. This B flat chord, I believe, is our gateway back to the key of F. Sorry, I wrote B flat twice there. I meant to write F. It is also our subdominant in the key of F. We then have F, F, C, and A, which is our tonic triad. This F is a chord tone. We have G, E, B flat, and B flat with a passing 7th here. In the tenor, this is E diminished over G. That is 7, 6. And then we have A, C, A, and C. Another interesting progression where we have 7 not going to 1 but to 3, which is totally okay. 7 we would expect to go to 3 via the cycle of falling fifths. This G is a chord tone. This G is not a chord tone. leaping up a seventh as well. That's interesting. That would be points off on a harmony homework if I was still a graduate student. But then we have this B flat right here, which is also a non-chord tone. A, C, A, and C. It's like another rootless tonic triad in first inversion, like we would expect, but we see 7 going to 3. It's up to you. I think this is definitely a 3 chord, but I think there's an argument to be made that a tonic triad's being implied here, just no root. Maybe there's another instrument that's playing the root, who knows. We're just looking at the vocal writing. Then we have D, A, F, and C, another one of these 6, 7 chords that we saw at the beginning of the chorale. Passing tone in the alto before we get G, B flat, D, and B flat, which we might be tempted to call a 2 chord, and I think you'd be valid if you called it that, but I think this is actually E diminished over G, which is 7, 6, just because we are going to have a tonic triad on the other side of it. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. A, C, F, and A, which is our tonic triad on the other side of this 7, 6 chord. I just feel like 2 to 1 is just an unusual progression, and when there's a 7 chord so close to it, it just feels more logical to call it a 7 chord, but I generally don't feel like chord progressions can happen if only one voice changes over the course of 2 eighth notes. I could be wrong. Maybe there will be instances that there is a chord change that's happening when there's only one voice that's moving. I feel like 2's a minimum. That's just me though. But this is a tonic triad in first inversion. Let's make sure we make that change. Passing tone in the bass before we get C, C, E, and G. That is our dominant C major, and then we get the same sort of ending that we had at the beginning of the first section, or the first phrase and phrase 1 of 2 in the first section. We then have F, C, F, and A, which is our tonic triad in root position. Going down to D here, it's kind of interesting. That'd be like making it a D minor 7 chord, but I'm just going to call that a non-chord tone. Then we have C, D, F, and B flat. I reckon the C is an accented non-chord tone, and it's this B flat that is our chord tone. That'd be B flat major, which is our 4 chord. We then have A, C, F, and C, which is our tonic triad in first inversion, F over A. Then we have 3 sets of neighbor tones going on. We have G, we have B flat, we have E, and we have C. This is like a C7 chord over a G, which would be 5, 4, 3. Especially when there's another tonic triad on the other side of that, I reckon that is a normative progression. A, C, F, and F. Tonic triad in first inversion. Then we have 3 other voices that are moving, a neighbor tone and 2 passing tones. B flat, D, F, and G. That's like G minor 7 over B flat, which is 2, 6, 5, and that's a chord that you would see in a cadential situation. We've seen it a number of times in this chorale. C, C, F, and A is F major over C. That's 1, 6, 4. For second inversion tonic triad, it's definitely a chord that we see in cadential situations. And then we have C, C, E, and G, which is our 5 chord with the passing 7th in the tenor. Sometimes we use this bracket to signify that 1, 6, 4, and 5 are occurring next to one another. It's not super necessary, but the textbook will teach you to do that in some cases. And then we cadence on F major, F, A, C, and F, which is our tonic triad in root position. Ending our chorale with a perfect authentic cadence like we would typically expect. A very beautiful chorale, and it's sad that no text has survived, or at least I haven't found where text for this chorale might exist. Regardless, still a very beautiful chorale with its quirks and intricacies. This progression at the beginning is interesting, with 4 going to 3. Has kind of a modal feel to it because the progression is not one that you would expect in tonal music, but here we are seeing it, which is cool. But that being said, if you're interested in following me along on this journey to analyze all of J.S. Bach's chorale harmonizations, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification icon. I upload once a day, so you'll get notified of when I upload. So if you want your daily dose of Bach or your daily dose of analysis, or both, you're in the right place, and I'd be happy to have you on the adventure. But on that note, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for supporting the channel by doing so. I look forward to tomorrow's analysis, and I hope you take care.